boys and girls, it's Miss Reynolds with B.O.R.E.D, Better Off Reading Every Day. Have I got a good one for you? It's called What Shall We Do with Those Hands by Joanne Williams Karen. And this is a library book. What shall we do with those hands? The nanny, the dressmaker, the butler, the painter, the gardener, and the housekeeper all gathered in the parlor. They were all weary and upset. What put them in such a state? The king and the queen inquired. The palace had not been the same since Princess Sambolina was born. Sounds of a child's cry filled the air for months. Princess Sambolina never slept or sat in her high chair very long. She seemed eager to move and play. Everyone was enamored by her great spirit and her sense of adventure. But as she grew, she seemed like a sense of adventure and curiosity became a challenge for all who worked in the palace. Everyone wondered what to do with Princess Sambolina's hands. Now, there was nothing physically wrong with her hands. They were beautiful hands, perfectly formed, with 5 fingers on each hand. They moved well, and she was able to do many things with them. But there lay the problem. Princess Sambolina had been doing lots of impish things with her beautiful hands. Let me hear it. The king interrupted the mumbling voices of the staff, who was speaking all at once. King Steph was a patient king, but complaints about the palace's state of confusion were too many to ignore. And to make matters worse, all the complaints were about his dear daughter Sambolina. Each of you state your complaint and let us resolve them once and for all, he said. Each day, when I bathe Princess Sambolina, she splashes all over. When I reach for a towel, she grabs the bottle of soap and empties it into the bath, causing bubbles to overflow everywhere. When I whisk her away to her room and try to dress her, she escapes and runs away half-dressed. She is gone for several minutes before I can find her and finish dressing her. It all happens so fast. The exasperated nanny declares, "I see," said the king. "Child's play, I suppose. A more watchful eye will solve that problem. Perhaps you should draw her bath before you bring her in. Take away the soap before she enters and have a towel more readily at hand." The king was unaware that the nanny had tried all of this, and Princess Sambolina climbed the shelves of the cupboard and took the soap when no one was around. "Will do, Your Majesty," the unconvinced nanny responded. The dressmaker stepped forward. "My king," she said, bowing timidly. "Each day my basket of silk cloth is spread everywhere. The silks and the finest cottons are stained from being touched. The ribbons are cut and the lace is torn. I cannot make the dresses I plan to make." The princess finds her way into the sewing room and makes a disaster of all materials. Princess Sambolina runs away when I find her in the sewing room. The sewing room shall be kept locked at all times. The king gestured to the butler to lock the door. He did not realize the door was already locked, and the princess princess had taken the key and opened the door. Your Majesty, there are handprints on the palace door every day. The butler shook his head. They're made with chocolate and paint. There's sticky stuff on the handles. I have to wipe it all up before I can open the door, and this causes delays. Each day I arrange for them to be removed, and each day they are there again. The handprints are Princess Sambolina's, but I never find her there. When I look, she is gone in a flash. As a special assistant shall stand at the door all day to ensure that the princess does not go there and leave handprints. The king thought the princess would not possibly be able to leave handprints with someone standing there. He thought that she would no longer go to the door. The painter was hesitant to speak. The king had solved all the complaints with a wave of his hand. Perhaps his complaint would seem silly after all. It is the queen who will not like this, Your Majesty. What is it? Speak up, the king urged. The queen's dressing room was to be painted a pearl pink, but now it has blue and green streaks all over. I don't know where they came from, but I may have to begin all over again. I only saw the princess run out of the room quickly. As I approached then, there it was, blue and green paint everywhere. The king was quiet for a moment. All paint shall be removed from the palace. If there is no paint, there will be no paint mess. Only pearl pink paint will be allowed, the king said. The gardener looked glum. There had been very few flowers in the palace over the last few days. The tulips have been picked, Your Majesty, and tossed all over the garden. The rose petals were ripped off and scattered everywhere. I scarcely trimmed them for the vases before they disappear. 3 of the 4 floral arrangements I made were destroyed. Some were cut into bits. As I was watering the new plants, I heard the door bang, and I saw the princess leaving quickly as she came. Gates shall be placed around the garden, and they shall be locked along the garden shed. If they are locked, she cannot enter. The king was tired of these complaints. I suppose you and the maids clean up all the messes, and you are going to tell me that Princess Sambolina has made even more, he asked the housekeeper. Before she could answer, the baker walked in with Queen's afternoon tea. Pardon me, he said, surprised at the staff gathering. It occurred to the king that at the very moment that the baker was the only one without a complaint. Step right in, Philip. Do you have anything to say about Princess Sambolina? The king asked. Oh, I could speak volumes, Your Majesty. The princess is a delight and quite a helper, I must add. The baker had a great big smile on his face. Tell me more, the king encouraged. The baker looked around the room at all the astonished faces. Your Majesty, early in the morning, dressed in her robe, she comes in and asks to lay her ingredients to make her dough. She is quite organized for such a young one. Then she leaves and returns later to mix and knead. She helped to make these tea biscuits, the queen's favorite guava tarts, every day. She can't always stay because she has class and naps, but she returns to help mix, roll, and knead, and Your Majesty, she loves color. She asked to put paint into the dough so it could be pretty as the tulips and the roses. So I give her a portion of dough that she mixes with food coloring, and we store it in the little bowls. She says she loves it to be as smooth as silk, so she mixes it and kneads it until it is just right. She has all the colors made, and other children like the colors. The cook's son played with it and enjoyed it so much that I gave cups of dough to all the children who come by. The baker rattled on. Colored dough to play with? The king laughed with delight. It is something good for those busy hands to do. Colored dough it shall be. He addressed the nanny. Make sure the princess has time to make colored dough every day. Help her mix colors and place in bowls. We shall give a gift of colored dough to all the children in the kingdom. That should keep Princess Sambolina's hands busy and occupied for quite some time, don't you think? Yes, Your Majesty, she replied. Before her bath every day, the nanny helped Princess Sambolina set out the ingredients to make her colored dough. Afterwards, they rushed back to the bakery to mix the dough. The painter mixed colors to match the beautiful flowers that were arranged nearby for Princess Sambolina to see. The dressmaker wrapped the bowls of colored dough in scraps of silk cloth and tied them with ribbons. The butler and the housekeeper were at work too, packing the wrapped dough into boxes to be delivered to the children in the kingdom and all over the world. Princess Sambolina's hands were so busy making colored dough with the help of the staff that she had no time to use her hands to make messes ever again. The end of What Shall We Do with Those Hands? Boys and girls, it is Miss Reynolds with B.O.R.E.D, Better Off Reading Every Day. I read a book the other day called Look at My Hands or See My Hands. Not 100% sure, but along the same theme, we are showing off our hands and all that they can do. And I know your hands are capable of doing many, many great things. And that's why I love being with you. I love being bored with you. I love reading to you. And even though I don't own the rights to any of these books that I have read to you, I love storytelling magic. And the magic of today's story is we found something to do with Sambolina's hands. Just like we found something to do with Miss Reynolds' hands. And that is holding a book and reading to you every single chance I get. It has been my pleasure, boys and girls, and you will never know what reading to you does for me and how it makes me feel. I call it magic because it makes me feel magical every single time. So how about a quick twirl? Ooh. You know, I almost fell right. That's what it's all about. Start all over again. Every time you think you messed up, there's always a chance to be silly and get it right.